All right. Well, welcome back to the Mission 43 podcast. I'm Dan McGurkin, your new host. Today, we're going to be sitting down with Andy Johnson, who's the director of the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse, and we're going to be talking about who the heck are we? And I think with putting a lot of thought into what we'd like to do with this first podcast, with the mission of Mission 43 in mind about attracting, supporting, and connecting, high-performing veterans and their families here in Idaho, we're going to kind of get into some of the harder stuff on, finding purpose at different seasons in your life and how Andy's navigated that, and maybe me as well as we kind of go back and forth with, his time as an Army officer and then getting into education shortly after his career in the Army. So I think the best place to do it is just to start with a nice, easy softball question, which is, how have you found purpose at different seasons in your life, Andy? And you kind of walk us through that story and what you think might be valuable, I guess, for folks to hear.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. I'm super excited to do this with you. We've been close almost since the day we met. When we met in the gym there at the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse, I couldn't be more excited that you're the Mission 43 director and that we're sitting down today to talk about that. Purpose is something that I have sought my entire life. I was inspired by stories of purpose as a kid. My heroes were always those men and women who fought World War II. And so joining the Army and having a long career, was fortunate to have lots of great experiences. I always felt like I had a sense of purpose, and I love doing hard things with other soldiers and interact with Iraqis and soldiers. So after the Army, it was, for me, my wife, who's also a veteran, she's in education, and education was attractive to me for a whole host of reasons. Like I have always loved to learn, but it also appeared to be a place where I could still seek and find purpose with people who are doing really valuable work with other adults and children and parents, and particularly in communities. And so, I sought that out after the Army. I was really lucky to get a lot of great opportunities at Riverstone International School, and most recently as the executive director for the Sage International School, the network of Sage schools. We have two schools here, or they have two schools in Boise and Middleton. Those are phenomenal experiences. Like we did great work for the Middleton community and the Boise community at both schools that we have here in Boise, and it felt like a great transition for the Army. And I was lucky to get to do all kinds of other cool things, like the stuff you and I both got to do last week. Was it last week we did the Leaders Fellow backpacking trip? All of the schools that I've led have had great outdoor programs, and I think that's another reason I was really attracted to this position at the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse, is because, part of the mission is obviously supporting and the efforts of Mission 43 and the Challenge to Athletes Foundation, which is led by Heather Lopez, an Army veteran and a phenomenal colleague for Dan and I at the Fieldhouse. Anyway, long-winded 3-paragraph answer. For me, purpose is always centered on first service in our Army, and then second in public and private schools here in Idaho. So it's been phenomenal, and I transitioned a lot longer ago than you did, but I think I'd love to bounce that same question back to you, Dan. Like, you're an Idaho native. You had a very successful career in the Marine Corps. You're infantry officer, sniper platoon commander, transitioned to be a ground intelligence officer, and you became a Marine Corps fellow at the CIA, and you've had a phenomenal amount of experiences. Like, what drove you to seek a career in the Marine Corps, and where are you seeking purpose now in your life?
Yeah, I don't really know yet. It's funny, because life starts happening, you start having kids, and you get married, and and it's you don't take a lot of time to stop and think about that. The transition's a good time to do that, obviously. I think, as I was a G.I. Joe kid, I was growing up north in Moscow, Idaho, and the military was always kind of where I was going to end up. One way or another. 9/11 happened when I was reasonably young. I have a lot of, everybody's got their story of that day. Really impactful moment for me, and it, set in concrete what was already probably going to happen, which was me joining the military. So I, went into enlist in the Marine Corps my senior year of high school. Ended up applying for the ROTC scholarship.
Good.
Went to that was my mom. She came back from the recruiter.
Thank you, Dan's mom.
And, yeah, she's probably gonna.
Nothing wrong with being enlisted. I did that first, but
one viewer, listener, mom for sure. I came back from the recruiter and she saw that I had some scholarship paperwork and she was like, "This is something you need to do." So
yeah.
Went to the University of Washington, ROTC, Naval ROTC program there. Super phenomenal experience. But kind of throughout that whole time, I think, you're motivated when you're a kid, if you're driven towards the military. Maybe this is something that'll resonate with folks. My experience was I got a bookshelf lined with every possible war story I can get my hands
Yes.
on. They're dusty. They're still sitting in my old bedroom or whatever. And you're motivated by the chance to kind of go and experience something like that, and to do it, and the idea of doing it for something bigger than yourself. And and I think at some level too, trying to bring honor or doing it as a service to your community, right? Like to something that your community can be proud of.
Yeah.
That probably drove a lot of my decisions all the way up through commissioning. And once I got into the military, I was pretty motivated by. I always did. That continued to drive me a lot. Just the service aspect of doing something greater than yourself. Working long hours, having a strong work ethic, all kind of, being like a kid from Idaho. Like, this is just stuff that I think comes innate a lot of times. I'm grateful for. But when you get in, I also kind of had, being from Idaho, and like most people that I ran into in the Marine Corps, I was either the first person they knew from Idaho, first person they ever met, like, where the heck is Idaho? And I kind of had a chip on my shoulder a little bit of I've got something to, it's nice to sometimes be scrappy little nobody from Nowhereville. And it helps set the stage nicely for, a good motivation to get out there and try to show that you can do these things. And it's if you have the small kind of little tools that you get taught as a kid of work ethic and discipline and these kind of goal setting and what is achieving a goal like, those building blocks can take you wherever you want to go. And hopefully you're oriented in a way that will make it towards something service oriented. I was lucky and grateful to get to do all the service oriented things that I did through the Marine Corps. I loved leading Marines. It's a really corny and like typical officer thing to say.
Corny, Dan.
It was such a privilege to get to be, what you can be for people when they need someone. And I think that was what I found throughout my experience on deployment, as well as leading the sniper platoon, and the chance to get to work with people who are really excited to show up to work and get better every day. It's not something that comes inherent to every job. So
it is not.
That was a big sense of purpose for me at that point, was just working with people who want to be there and be doing the work. And they're young and they got a lot of energy, typically faster than me, right? So like that helps drive you a little bit.
Don't say that, Dan. You're fast. You're fast.
You're still faster than me. And then once I'd always kind of had an academic bent. I had three brothers growing up. I used to lie to them and tell them I had homework so that I could read, because I love to read. And we'd be sitting there and they'd be like, "Oh, how much more reading do you have to do?" I'm like, "Oh, 10 more pages." And I just sit there and I just keep doing it for like an hour. But that's where I went to National Intelligence University on that fellowship. Got a master's of science in strategic intelligence with a concentration in China studies. Never really expected to be kind of an East Asia guy working on those issues, but it was super interesting. Was grateful to get to try something new. Love to do that. And then, rolling over into the intelligence community. I think at that point I was just grateful to, just like with the Marine Corps, be doing work that felt important. Right, doing something that felt like you were making a difference and help make the country safer. Was a lot of fun. And I think that's one of the things that I think about often when someone will say something like, "Thank you for your service." It's a little awkward because I feel like I got to go do, you got to go
exactly
achieve
what you wanted to do.
Exactly. I got to go achieve my dreams, and the country was great. I was fortunate enough that I was allowed to do that. And so it puts you in kind of an awkward position. And then, or go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I always appreciate that question or that sentiment from people, but I feel the same way, Dan. Is like, I did exactly what I wanted to do. I had dreamed of being a soldier since I was a little boy, and it wasn't a gift every day because, like many of us who've served, and particularly like you and I have served in combat, like there's some very difficult days and some very tough days, and that's probably come up on the podcast before. That's a pretty common theme for veterans of the GWAT. But I felt like being a soldier was what I was kind of born to do. I had loved it, and so it makes me really happy to hear you say the same thing. And I'm just envisioning your bookshelves at your childhood home and all those dusty tomes and stories of heroes and missions that have gone well and missions that have gone poorly, but there's always something to learn from there. Dan, you led Marines in Syria and in Afghanistan. Those experiences were probably formative in many ways. They were things that you had trained for, probably prepared for since you were a child in some ways, right? What sort of leadership lessons did you pull away from deployment or more generally in the Marine Corps that you're bringing to your work at Mission 43?
I think that a lot of it deals with, the two things is, when I was in the infantry officer course in the Marine Corps, they had us, they drilled two things into us really hard, which were, it's not about me and did you do all you could? Yeah. And I think those are two like pretty principled through lines that I try to take to my life in general. Yeah. As a leader, as a father or husband, right? Is that if those are things that should guide the work that you do. And the other thing I would say too is, I'm the product of a multiple divorce family, and it makes you very sensitive to people's emotions and how they're feeling and what is driving them, or maybe what's bothering them, or what's on their mind, or how you can help them. And I think that being very emotionally or connected to how people are feeling is useful, and trying to connect with them on that. And that's why I try to be really forward about my experiences, and because I think the bottom line is we're all just living this, we're all just trying to figure this out, right? And that goes for anybody in any position that you're in. So, but I'd ask the same question of you. I mean, you were combat veteran of Iraq. Like I think back to my time there, it felt very fast and a little chaotic, and also at the same time like mildly repetitive. And so in the time I wasn't really thinking about it, but now that you've had a lot more time than me, I think, to reflect on it, what would you say? Yeah, and
thank you, Dan. I'm still reflecting on that. Like I think probably many of us are that served in Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or all the other places that we deployed to as part of the global war on terror, and still are deploying in some cases on the global war on terror. I went to Iraq pretty late in my career. I was already a major, and I was the S5 for a military police brigade, and I had a mission of rebuilding Iraqi police forces. I had made it my mission my entire life to not associate with the police. I love them, but I love them at a distance. And all of a sudden I found myself like sort of in charge of rebuilding a whole branch of the Iraqi police forces from the Kuwaiti border to north of Baghdad in 2005, which was, pretty crazy year in Iraq. 2005, 6, and 7 were kind of off the hook in terms of just violence and us trying to get a plan together to make Iraq safe for Iraqis. So I think, I've thought about that a lot, and, things that I keep pulling away is you can never stop learning about the place where you are. Like, you've got to be curious all the time. Like, even if you don't understand something, asking questions about where you are. I think culture, like, there are all kinds of cultures. There's cultures inside Mission 43 and the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse, and there's different cultures around Boise, but they're certainly all over the world. And that's one thing that was just like smack me in the face when I arrived in Iraq. It's like, I don't understand Iraqi police culture. I don't understand just Iraqi culture in general. I don't speak Arabic. So I think learning and really being appreciative of culture and the ways in which it can motivate or demotivate people to act in certain ways was a big thing. And I think the other thing, and this is something I thought about a lot in the years since Iraq, is, you said it just was fast and sometimes repetitive. When I was in Iraq, I really felt like I had to take charge quickly and a team of soldiers from the Kentucky National Guard who were really brave, salt-of-the-earth guys. But they had not signed up for the mission they were signed to do with me. And so I felt a real obligation to them to lead in a way that I took some of that, the burden off. I didn't want them having to think how to do X, Y, and Z as we did these things. But I feel like upon reflection, I think I would have, if I was going to do it all over again, I probably would have stopped and spent even more time trying to understand Iraqi culture instead of moving right into sort of building police stations and getting police pickup trucks and all the like mechanical things we did, and spent more time understanding what Iraqi policemen thought about their work, what Iraqi policemen thought about their country, about what Iraqi policemen thought we should do next. I didn't involve them in a lot of planning until much later in that deployment. So I think learning to listen more carefully and do things with people instead of, always, leading from the front, which is something you and I were probably both taught.
Yeah.
Right?
I think one of the things that I've appreciated most about when I think about leaders and mentors that have, helped me grow the most is that they do things like force you to ask the hard questions of yourself, a little like what we led this with,
Sure. Why are you doing this?
Right. And I think that's like a role that you try to fill for people, but to do that, you have to be in a healthy place yourself to be able to be thinking about that stuff for yourself. I would, just because we have the folks that I'm imagining are going to be listening to this, I would like to just take a second and ask you, when it came to that transition from the military to education, my transition was not smooth. I spent a lot of time thinking about you're losing a pretty big sense of purpose and driver, and it forces you to ask a lot of hard questions. For me, that was while also trying to raise a young family, change a lot of my habits as a husband, given that we were transitioning to a much less chaotic kind of like lifestyle. What was that? Was it a natural, like you already knew, or was it something that you had to kind of explore and find education as a pathway forward?
No. My wife, Evelyn, who's the person I listen to most carefully about everything, was an Army officer and then knew that she wanted to be a teacher and get into education. So early on, she had, while she was still in the Army, got her master's in teaching and then went on to get a doctorate at the University of Washington, where I got my master's. So we have all that in common.
Go Dogs.
Great university, everybody. So like if you're thinking about places to send your kids, it's a good one. But I had way back when I was an enlisted soldier in West Germany, I'm dating myself for sure, I had talked about this idea with another non-commissioned officer I was close to and I respected, about this idea that after the Army I might want to be a teacher. I don't know what drove me that way, because I had not really been a kid who loved school. I was good at school, but just not. Anyway, that was in my brain. Like one day I'd maybe teach English literature because I love books like you, Dan. I read all the time and still do. But I put that aside and I just drove on with my career, became an officer, artilleryman, Ranger School, all that stuff. But as we got closer to the end, Evelyn, was gently counseling me to sort of think about, like, you're transitioning, you got to get after it. So I got involved with Western Governors University and used my GI Bill to sort of get a post-bac teaching certificate. And I thought, well, I'll get out of the Army, I'll teach. And I finished that. When we moved to Boise, Evelyn was a professor at Boise State. And I sort of fell backwards into Riverstone International School, a little private, now pre-K, was K to 12 school. Just started not student teaching there, like subbing. I liked the people that worked there. They were cool. They were mission driven. They were curious. They were thoughtful. They were kind. And they had this killer outdoor program, all of which appealed to me. So one thing led to another. I student taught there for about 4 years, moved into a school leadership role. That grew, started a boarding program, got to a point where I wanted something a little bit different. I'd been at Riverstone for about 12 or 13 years and got this unbelievable opportunity to join Sage International School as the executive director, which is public charter schools, all international baccalaureate, which is what the school had been at Riverstone. And it was just this phenomenal. So I guess to answer your question in a short way is like I had a pretty clear path coming out of the Army. I thought I'm going to be a teacher. I'll be on the same schedule as my kids. It's purposeful work. I'm going to do that. Spoiler alert, it didn't pay anything. Like that was rough. So in terms of bumpy transitions, and you and I have talked about this, Dan, like you go from like whatever it is with BAH and all the other things you get, and then all of a sudden like, jobs in the civilian world don't pay you to pay your mortgage. And so it's a big eye opener. And, that was a transition for Evelyn and I, but, just over the years, we just navigated it and we both worked really hard. And she's still in education. She's vice president for research for a big education company here in the United States. And, we both have stayed engaged with that. And I'm very excited about being at the Fieldhouse, a place that values the outdoors, values growth, values learning, and to get to work with you and Heather as you guys build out these organizations at Mission 43 and Challenged Athletes Foundation. I think we're just in this phenomenal space where we get to help people and do work with real purpose. So I'm super grateful.
And that's why I asked the question, because like Mission 43 for me helped me find that new purpose. Like it was, it kind of presented itself.
And you took full advantage of it, Dan. Like during your skill bridge, you dove in. Like you were everywhere. And you weren't afraid to do the hard things. You weren't afraid to like, I'll go over and take care of lodging. Like you were it was impressive watching you doing your skill bridge because your humility was incredible.
Well, I think that's what I try to get folks to understand is I like Mission 43 and what we're doing at the Fieldhouse is all of the best parts of the military without the bad parts.
I like literally, like, I have no, you say that's true.
I have no other way to try to articulate that to people than to say, like all the things you love about the camaraderie, the doing difficult things together, the self-growth, the self-reflection, the conversations that really in 30 seconds steer toward something that you didn't even know you needed to think about. People going through the same things that you're going through without any of the administrivia or, all of the things that come with being in the military. And so it's really fun and that's, I think at this point, you transitioned to education. I've kind of transitioned to this space, and I feel fortunate to get to work in a place, and possibly fortunate to be in a spot where I can hopefully try to help people navigate that transition, which I don't think ever really completes. It's all about just finding purpose throughout your life. So, but to be in a space to help people do that is incredibly special. And to get to focus on that work is pretty awesome. But I don't know. I think it'd be worth a little bit kind of, laying out for folks Mission 43 relationship with the Fieldhouse, kind of how that works and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, or maybe you can start off with, from the Fieldhouse perspective. And
so as the Fieldhouse director sort of is kind of a campus director, and on our campus we have Mission 43, like we serve as a headquarters for Mission 43, and there's, frankly, very little daylight between the Fieldhouse and Mission 43's work, although Mission 43 is its own thing, serves specifically veterans. Fieldhouse has a little bit broader mission. We also have Challenged Athletes Foundation, like I mentioned, is led by Heather Lopez, an Army veteran, is serving permanently physically disabled athletes here in Idaho and does incredible work, and several of those people that she works with are also veterans who are combat wounded. So across the organization, I feel fortunate that between Mission 43 and Challenged Athletes Foundation, we got two organizations really trying to help people find purpose, be active, be engaged, be together, be in community. Incredible. We're also lucky to have on the campus Summit Hyperbarics, which is another initiative, the J&K Albertsons Family Foundation, that supports the work we do at Mission 43 and at Fieldhouse in terms of providing a medical intervention, which is highly pressurized oxygen that has a proven effect at healing trauma from traumatic brain injuries and from the effects of post-traumatic stress. So it's a pretty cool place. And I'm lucky to get to work with you, get to work with Heather, get to work with Steve Wyman over at Summit Hyperbarics. We're just in a great spot. So,
yeah. I think what folks find when they come in the Fieldhouse is just you feel like you're walking into a world-class facility where people are where people care and they're there for,
Yeah.
you can't put your finger on it, but they're there for the right reasons, whether they're executing a workout or if they're participating in an event or something like that. And the fact to get to do it with CAF Summit and Mission 43 all alongside, I mean, from the Mission 43 perspective, it's an enormous value add. Like there's so much baked in as far as a service component, the chance to connect with people that you might not otherwise have the chance to connect with. It's pretty awesome and pretty special that it's happening at the Fieldhouse.
It really is. I'd be remiss in not touching on that. It's called the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse for a reason. It's one of the things you and I both love, and I think many of our members in both CF and Mission 43 love is, really what we're trying to do is help people be better versions of themselves, being fitter and stronger to enjoy all the things we have here in Idaho, because we do live in a really special place. I mean, there are few places in the world that have the kind of outdoor opportunities that we have here in Idaho. So, you and I both participate in things like cohort, we run cohort models around different outdoor sports like mountain biking, hiking, Nordic skiing, alpine skiing, those sorts of things. Climbing, this year we'll do climbing, because we think that putting people together and asking them to do hard things together builds community and relationships. And you and I our relationship is a result of doing sandbag runs and stuff together. That's how we got to know each other. But that, I think, is pretty transformational. And there are not a lot of people doing that. And so, I think I just encourage folks who are maybe listening to this, who haven't gotten involved with Mission 43 or Challenge Athletes Foundation or the Fieldhouse, to get to the website, reach out to the teams and see how they can get involved. I would never make a guarantee that it'll change your life, but I think anytime you open yourself up to new experiences, you're open to changing your life, and that's what we offer here.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say to anybody who's looking at, if they're in a season of life, whatever it is, if you're transitioning, even if you're on active duty still, or if you're settled somewhere, but you're looking for more and you're trying to figure out what that is, that the Fieldhouse and I think the work that we do with Mission 43 is a place that can help you navigate that. And it's, we've got all different ways we can do that. If you want a healthier family, we have programming for that. If you want to enjoy the outdoors more with new skills and knowledge, we've got that. We can help you get stronger and more fit. We can help you get a more fulfilling job that feels like a step forward, and we can give you education and growth opportunities, or our Leaders Fellowship that lets you feel like you're still progressing and you're making a positive, like incremental positive change. So anyway, I think that's you try to say that to folks as much as you can, and that's where you just encourage folks, like, just get engaged and come check it out. Like, there's not, and I think it's hard because if I'm being honest with myself, I am not someone who would naturally walk into like a veteran service organization and ask about services or something. And folks ask us all the time. They'll come in and then maybe they'll get the bug and kind of see what's going on and be excited about it. How can I help? And the reality is the best way you can help is just being present, being yourself. Like, we're just looking for good service-oriented people that want to connect with other good service-oriented people and continue to do good in our communities here in Idaho. And I think that's the bottom line, is like, you don't have to look anywhere else. If you want to look, like, just come check out what we're doing, and I guarantee you're going to find something between the Fieldhouse, Mission 43, opportunities with CAF, or like, it's all right there.
Purposeful lives.
Yeah, we're doing our best.
We're doing our best, Dan.
Well, great. I mean, I did have one more question that I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Because I think
feels like a curveball. Throw it at me.
It's not a huge curveball.
Okay.
It's maybe a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what you think. I think that parenthood and marriage can I don't know. Like, if you're a young person and you're screaming towards something, like a meteor, right? Like, you're screaming towards something. Parenthood and marriage is one of those things that can kind of hit you in a good way, right? But it'll knock you in a different course, or it can make your trajectory change a little bit. As you've navigated, I think it often belies a lot of navigation and self-growth to say that, I got out of the military and then we raised our family and then now but when you were navigating all this as a husband and father, did you notice any anything that was helpful to you, or how did you navigate moving from Andy, the Army officer that's a father and husband, to Andy, the civilian that's a husband and father, and trying to take the good or leave the bad, or whatever that might look like?
Yeah, that is a good question, Dan, because I think, to your point, anybody who's really honest about their transition and navigating, as you've put it, new seasons of life in good marriages and strong marriages, in marriages that are trying, I think couples are good about supporting each other.
Yeah, like, double down. There are some times when one person's career at that moment has to take precedence, and you just hope that the other person, in every marriage, supports the other, and that there's a kind of an equal back and forth. Evelyn, it's always been a lot. Evelyn and I both have had careers in the Army and then outside the Army that have been, by lots of measures, demanding of our time. I certainly didn't always get that balance right. I have certainly been guilty of pouring too much of myself sometimes into the work, whatever it might be, and I had to do some resetting around that, and that's a conversation that Evelyn and I have had, and we continue to have, and because we've been married for a long time now, and she's the person I trust the most in the world, and she's the person I love the most in the world, and she's the person I listen to most closely, and frankly, much of the success that I've enjoyed since I met Evelyn is because of our partnership, and I'll never forget that. And so that would be, whatever it takes. If you're listening out there, I think that's super important, to slow down and take the time to listen to each other, and most importantly, support each other when one person needs to pour their heart into something a little harder than the other one has to. Right? I don't know if that's a great answer or not, but navigating transitions is hard for everybody in a family, for kids, husbands and wives. It can be very difficult. I think just, some of the things we've talked about is listening and having empathy. And I won't say that I always got that right or still get it right every time. But being willing to continue to do that work's important. Yeah, I think and I asked the question because I think that's a through line. We do a lot to help people. Yeah. We're grateful to get to do it. A through line of a lot of the conversations you have just organically with folks always come back to how's the family doing? How are you guys? What are you guys doing for fun? And that's one of the things that I think can be challenging for folks coming out of the military or like a high paced job. Yeah. Is to something I've tried to do, and certainly am not getting it 100% right, but doing the best I can to kind of take that same energy that you have for the work you're doing and try to pour the same level of energy into the work you're doing at home.
I think that's super important.
And, in the end, it probably nets out to less sleep for you or whatever it is, but like it
will definitely net out to that.
I can assure you, actually, it will. But in the end, it's not about me and did you do all you could thing, right? And that has to be the same question. I think and that's, I hope it's helpful for folks, because I think that a lot of times it's a subject we don't touch on. And so folks will feel a little isolated, like they're kind of doing it themselves. I think the message is just like, you're not the only ones that have tried to navigate this and tried to figure this out.
That's right.
We are trying to provide conversations and hopefully that are helpful for folks when it comes to that stuff.
I know you are, Dan.
We're doing our best.
You guys are doing great stuff in Mission 43. I'm very excited about where it's going under your leadership.
No, I'm super grateful to be here. I can't say it enough every day. I kind of pinch myself driving into work. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Andy. Is there anything else we didn't get to that you think you want to?
No. You asked some tough questions. Those were good. I'm just grateful for your leadership. I'm glad that you said yes when I asked you to do this, and
I'm glad that you asked me to do this.
Yeah, I'm very glad, and it's worked out.
So far, you're glad. We're
only 3 months in, so we'll work with each other. It'll be great. Thanks, Dan.
Well, thank you, and thanks everybody. couldn't be happier to be here doing this with you all. Hope it's a value add, and keep coming back. We're going to try to offer some more stuff like this going forward. Hope everybody has a great day. Take care.